Hi, this is Supervisor Angie Carpenter, and welcome to this edition of Supervisor Spotlight. We're here in the studios of Long Island News Radio at Long Island MacArthur Airport, and just delighted to have for our guest this afternoon, Dr. Monique Darrisaw-Akil.
Thank you.
Who is with the Brentwood School District and has a long, proud history in the field of education and a lot of other things. And we were co-honorees with a few other people a couple of weeks ago. The Islip branch of NAACP honored both of us and a few others at the Legacy Gala. And it was so cool to see the reception that you got. You know, so many of your colleagues from the district were there, and you could really feel the love. It was really nice.
Yes,
so we thought it'd be kind of nice to have you come into the studio and talk a little bit about the district and yourself.
All right. Well, thank you. I'm really excited to be here. So being in Brentwood has been just an amazing learning experience. As you can see, our staff is, really warm and welcoming and really committed, to working with our population. And our population is really diverse. Both in terms of academic outcomes as well as just the, demographics of our population. And so I've never seen a staff that's just embracing just the changes, the challenges, and the joys of being with this group of students. So it's really been great. And, we're really large. So, everyone who's on staff has to be able to multitask and, has to understand that, it is really a commitment to work with our district.
When you talk about being really large, we know that Brentwood is a large school district. So for our viewers and listeners, just how big is the Brentwood School District?
So we have close to 19,000 students.
Gosh, that is enormous.
K through 12, pre-K, we have universal pre-K as well. So we have 11 elementary schools, 4 middle schools, a freshman center because we couldn't host all our ninth graders in the high school, and a high school that has 4,300 and some odd students.
That is incredible.
It is large.
It really, really is. But you really get that sense of small community and, a oneness about the kids in Brentwood.
Yeah, I think we can attribute some of that to the stability and leadership. We've had a, consistent board, and our superintendent who has, risen through the ranks.
Grew up in the district.
Pretty much. He's been in the district for a really long time as a middle school principal and then a high school principal for many years. And as you know, recently he was principal of the year from New York State.
Yes.
And so...
so we're talking about Dr. Richard Lochner.
Richard Lochner, definitely.
Yeah.
And so I think that just having that unified message at the top, stable cabinet, those are things that make schools effective. And I just think that teachers, a lot of the teachers grew up in the community, and I think they chose to work in Brentwood. It wasn't a default, like, well, let's just get a job somewhere. They chose this community for a variety of reasons, and I think you get that when you walk through our halls.
It's interesting. You said a lot of the teachers grew up in the community. I find that even teachers that have not grown up in the community who really embrace and cherish the opportunity to be a part of a district like Brentwood. And when you have that feeling amongst the teachers in the classroom, it has to filter down to the kids.
Definitely. And I'm a transplant, so I can definitely identify with not growing up in the community, but still feeling like this is a home and this is a place where we value children, we respect our parents, and we really want to see all of our students succeed. And I think there's also a sense of pride, and we want to just, make sure that everyone has a better understanding of what our community really is about.
We had a town board meeting yesterday, and I don't know if you're aware of it or not, but we honored 2 students from Brentwood, the president of your student senate, Keanu Waters, and Destiny Eusebio. And they both, independent of one another, emailed me and felt that there was a lacking of students really understanding what their local elected officials were all about and what they did, and was there a way we could do anything, and they threw out the idea of having a meet your politician, kind of day. So I wrote back to both of them, and I asked them if they'd be interested in coming in to meet with me because I really liked their idea, and it kind of reminded me of something I had done in Bayshore many, many years ago when I was a legislator. I went to Gardner Manor School and spoke to a group of grade school students, and there was a panel, and there was a state assemblyman at the time, and someone from the town, and the county legislator, and it was really interesting. So they came in, and I was absolutely blown away by the both of them. They were so adorable and bright and articulate and confident and just incredible, you know.
Right.
And we talked about it, and I said I would help them do it, but I would had one caveat. I wanted it to be meet your elected officials rather than meet your politician.
Yes,
So,
yes. So they're really amazing students,
Yeah.
and I love this idea about getting our young
We're
people.
gonna do it.
We are going to do
We
it,
are
right?
doing
We're going to
it,
get
yeah.
our young people empowered and engaged, and I think that there are so many issues that our local legislature is voting on, Albany, and definitely things that are happening on the national level that really do impact our young people, and so we want them to be engaged and informed. We never want to lead them to one particular perspective or the other.
Exactly.
But I think when we start to really engage young people in these issues so they can start to, read and listen from different perspectives and also understand how to advocate within, our government, how to know who our local officials are and what they can do to serve us and how can we, advocate for those positions that we care about.
When you say advocate, learning how to advocate is so important because we have people come to the town board all the time, and both adults and children. And I was so blown away with how respectful these two young people were, and that's not always the case. And I find it, and this is me personally, I find it even more egregious when it's a student who stands there and demands something from the elected official and isn't respectful. So they were just absolutely incredible.
I'm glad to hear
So they
that.
were there yesterday, and we had a few other students. Bayshore girls track team got county championship, and another young woman from Bayshore had written a letter to the planning department concerned about the safety on a street in town. And she offered some suggestions, and again, the planning staff was so impressed by the respectful tone of her letter that they dispatched a crew out to check it, and sure enough, so they got in there within a couple of days and were cutting back trees and putting in lighting, and so we had her at the town board, and the whole idea, hopefully, is to impress upon everyone, but especially our young people, that they can make a difference.
Right?
But
and
you
don't
have to,
have to position yourself to be heard, and so I think that's a really important, learning lesson.
It is
for all of them that there are steps to be taken, before we get to the place where, we're not having. We should never get to the place where we're not having respectful dialogue, but there are steps to be taken, and so how do we train our young people to really engage in the process through letter writing, through going to the appropriate person to speak to, and making their statements, and all that should be part of an authentic learning experience.
So, well, as I said, they were really, really terrific, and
Awesome. Well,
I'm
thank you for
looking forward
recognizing
to
them.
our Meet Your Elected
The
Officials
official
Day
day.
at Brentwood High
Oh,
School.
awesome.
We exchanged emails again yesterday because something got lost, and because I said to them we would follow up with another meeting because I was so enjoying talking with them, and I had to run out to a meeting, and after about an hour, I had to really bail, and I felt bad because I really would have sat there with them longer. So we're going to meet again and work out the details. So it's all good.
Yes,
it's all
awesome.
good. So anyway, I found it interesting too in reading about your beginnings, if you will, how you got involved in this field. Did you always want to be a teacher? I mean, I know I did, never wound up doing it, but was it something you always wanted to do, be in education?
I think early on I did know that I wanted to be an educator. I was one of those kids who just loved history. I still do.
Oh, interesting.
And so I just found this kinship with the social studies teachers in my high school. And at one point I thought I wanted to be a professional historian, to do research and to, publish around that. And so at one point there was kind of a fork in the road, like, am I going to go that way or am I going to teach?
Well, at that fork in the road, we're going to find out which way you went.
Okay.
Because we have to take a little bit of a break. And we will be back with Supervisor Spotlight. Thank you. Welcome back to Supervisor Spotlight. This is Angie Carpenter, Town of Islip Supervisor here at the studios of Long Island News Radio. Thank you, JVC Broadcasting, for being so gracious. And with us today, we have Dr. Akil from the Brentwood School District, who is the Assistant Superintendent for Secondary Education. And we were just talking about when she reached that fork in the road, like which way was she going? So what made you make the decision?
So I also got involved in some advocacy when I was an undergraduate student. I attended Brooklyn College, and I was part of a women's empowerment group where we were looking at policy issues. And a part of that experience was an internship where I got involved in the National Education Association and looked at some of the issues that impacted young people. And so I think the combination of advocacy and the opportunity to kind of marry my love for history and actually have an impact on young people at the same time to address some of the inequities in our school system, that really spoke to me. And I said, what better way than to like really put all those things into practice? So, I think that I've kind of come full circle from being a real practitioner in the classroom with students to moving into administration, where obviously you can impact more lives, but you lose that one-on-one touch with young people and the opportunity to really see the fruits of your labor. So you work with them, you get to see them over time grow and hopefully blossom and then pursue their own careers. So the work that we do now and that I do is really focusing on long-term systems and policies that are going to help a lot of students grow and have the best opportunities for success after high school. I do miss the time with students. And, of course, we try to find our way into classrooms, but there's nothing like that one-on-one with kids. I will say I don't miss all the lesson plans and correcting the papers on a Friday night, but I really do miss the time with kids and just getting to know a young person. And I'll just, put a plug in for an organization that I'm a part of, which is Big Brothers, Big Sisters Long Island.
Yeah, great group. And
so 2 years ago, I decided to become a mentor to a 15-year-old because I just wanted to have that connection. I said, so I'm doing all this policy work and I'm, putting out, memos and sometimes putting out fires, but I really wanted to have that one-on-one relationship with the child. And so I would just encourage anybody to, be a mentor, there's nothing like seeing a child develop and just being that adult friend that helps them as they're making those choices. So just like I had a fork in the road, I think our young people have forks in the road they face every day.
And if they can have that mentor, if they can have that role model and feel comfortable in reaching out to them, it makes all the difference
and
in
it's
the
not
world.
The same as being a parent or even being a teacher because, you're not evaluating them in any way. It's really giving them that safe space to talk and to be. And so I learned things from her. I learned what's cool and what's not anymore. And, I try to impact her decisions about her future.
That's really wonderful, really. Hearing you say about being in the classroom and kind of missing it a little bit, do you feel, and I think I would agree, that having been an educator, being in the classroom and then moving into administration makes you a better administrator?
I definitely think so. I think there's something called authentic leadership, and it's really hard to stand up in front of a group of people and lead them when you really don't know what their lives are like, and doing it for a period of time, right? Because work is seasonal, so knowing when the times of the year that are unbearable, knowing when the times of the year where students are really anxious, or if there are times where there's testing or getting ready for parent-teachers night, it takes a couple of years to go through that before you really understand the work. So I think if anyone wants to lead, they must really authentically lead from the lens of someone who's walked through those shoes. So I would encourage anyone who's aspiring to leadership to give it a chance, a season to really learn what the lay of the land is before you jump into that hot seat.
And not everybody wants to get to that point, be an administrator. There are people that are in the classroom for 30 years and
of course
absolutely effective and love the fact that they're doing it. And probably that's the biggest key. And I would hope that wherever the teacher is, that they want to be there.
Of course, of
You
course.
know.
And I think that there should be distributive leadership. Teachers are leaders too, and there are teacher leaders by nature of their expertise and by nature of their time that they've had in the classroom. In every school, you're going to find teachers that other teachers go to when they have a question or a concern, or they need help with a lesson, or there's a student they just can't break through to. In every school, you're going to find a few teachers who are like that. And I think that our job as leaders is to really create the structures where those folks can emerge and their voices can be heard on critical issues around curriculum and assessment and school policy. We need to really hear their voices in our work as well.
And I think in your position, you are probably able to identify those who have those skills, who would be the natural leaders, and be there to encourage them to do that. Because not everyone, can step out of their shell and take that next step. They need a little bit of encouragement to do so.
Yes, that's true. That's true. Sometimes, and I think sometimes the best teachers are the ones that you really have to beg them. We really need you to do this, because they're really devoted to their craft. So sometimes, you have to knock on their door more than once in order to get them to step up and lead a professional development or lead a committee. But it's really important. And I think that, our principals know who those individuals are, and they go to them probably frequently and say, hey, we need to hear your voice on this topic.
Yeah. That's great. Really, really great.
Yeah.
Some of the things that I saw that you were interested in, and I love the idea of parent empowerment. The teachers can't do it all. They need that support, and kids need to know that. So what have you done in those endeavors?
Well, first I think that, we have to always treat our parents with the respect. And I think the way that we communicate that is by sharing information with them about critical issues, right? So I am a parent,
right.
And I was a parent in public schools, at children's public schools. And, as a parent who's also wears the hat of an educator, sometimes it would be very frustrating for me to sit in meetings where all we talked about was candy sales.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I know there are other things going on in this school. I really know, because of the work that I do, that there are other things going on in this school. So I think that we show them that respect by valuing their time and by talking to them like professionals. And that might mean that we might have to differentiate our approach and maybe make sure that we speak in ways that are not filled with jargon. But I think that all parents, are concerned about the same things we're concerned about: school safety, enough resources, what their children are learning, what will it prepare them for after they leave our schools. And I feel like if we really respect our parents, those are the conversations we'll have with them. So that's the way I approach empowerment. I think it starts with talking to them about things that matter. And if they don't know what it is, then I think it's our job to say, these are some of the issues that, we think you should be concerned about: nutrition, mental health of our children, bullying, how much time they're spending on the internet, what kind of routines are there at home, and how that has an impact on what they do during the school day. So those are the conversations we need to have with them, but as partners, not that we're the fount of all information, because our parents do have expertise. They're their children's first teachers. They know what they want for their children. And so I think when we approach them in a partnership, as opposed to, this unequal equation where we're the educators, we're the experts, and you have to receive what we have. But no, let's have a dialogue. What are you seeing in the community? Because maybe we're not expert in that. What are you seeing? And a lot of times the parents know about what the other children are involved in, because there are always parents who say, every child comes to my house after school. You want to get in touch with those parents because they have their fingers on the pulse of what's happening in the community.
It's got to be a really delicate road that you take in that endeavor, as you said, to be respectful and to really get them to buy into partnering and not just listening to what you have to say, but getting them to share, because they know their kids best.
Definitely.
So we will be back in a few minutes to talk more to Dr. Akil. And it's just all very interesting. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you.
Welcome back to Supervisor Spotlight. I'm Angie Carpenter, Town of Islip Supervisor, here at Long Island MacArthur Airport in our studios with Dr. Akil, the Assistant Superintendent from Brentwood Schools for Secondary Education. And we've been talking about a lot of education issues, and certainly you can't talk about a child's education without talking about their parent and some of the opportunities that the district will prepare and present for them to make things a little bit easier and having them be true partners in this whole educational process. But I had a question for you. Do you find with technology, and I hear my kids talk about it with my grandkids and the parent portal and getting assignments online, and is it easier, or does it bring its own set of problems with this technology that we have at our fingertips now?
In terms of parents or students? So,
and both.
I think that it is a mixed blessing. I think that there's an expectation that they're going to be notified about everything immediately because we have everything at our fingertips. And so with schools, we can't work at the speed of light all the time. And so sometimes there's an expectation that, everything will be available as soon as right. Possible.
And we have that in government too.
And that's a little difficult,
because you still have to put the information in.
Right.
Yeah.
And sometimes you have to clarify,
right.
particularly when it comes down to a crisis. Sometimes we have to clarify some things before we can release that. So that can be very challenging as a school administrator. And then I also think there's still a digital divide. I think our students are using technology, for all different purposes, but not all of our parents are at the same place in terms of using that. So I think that if we leave everything to these portals, we're missing. I think that nothing beats a phone call to a parent to say, especially if there's a concern. We don't want to say, well, I posted it online and that's it. I think our parents do deserve more, and we don't want to take for granted that they've gotten the message. Sometimes children are checking, especially when there's a language, barrier. Children are getting the information, and then we're putting them in a position where it's their responsibility to share that information with their parents. So I believe in a hybrid model. Yes, we want to maximize technology for all its benefits, reduce waste, through paper and the mailing and the postage, but still create opportunities for face-to-face contact, which our district does a really great job by having small group and large group meetings around everything from college expectations to vaping to any topic you imagine. There are forums that are available for parents around that every night of the week, as well as celebrations, because there's so many wonderful things that are happening in our district. So I definitely would promote both, the face-to-face and small group and the technology as well.
I know when you talk about events and things happening there, I know our Director of Personnel takes such pride in the fact that he participates in the job fair over there and tries to recruit students to summer employment. We hire about 800 people, in the course of a summer, and there are many, many opportunities for students. And
That's awesome that they have that real life experience and that you're providing a venue for them. And it takes patience with our young people.
Yes.
They don't all know how to enter a job site and, to prepare their resume and just the protocols of working in an office. So we're so thankful for all of our partners that give our children those opportunities.
Well, you make it easy.
Thank you.
So tell us about, I know you're involved in a number of other things outside of the educational realm, and one is an organization, My Brother's Keeper, that you seem to be very tuned into and committed to, and
very passionate about.
Share that with us.
So the New York State Department of Education made some funds available. We were the first state in the nation to actually allocate resources for the My Brother's Keeper initiative. And it was a competitive process where districts had the opportunity to apply for a series of grant funding, and our district won a 3-year grant. That is our Family and Community Engagement Grant. And so with those funds, we started in our freshman center, and we identified young men of color, which is the purpose of the grant, to try to increase outcomes for them and to break the negative cycles and to create a college and career pipeline for our students. So we have students that meet once a week for mentoring, career coaching. We have a partnership with Stony Brook and the Youth Enrichment Services.
Yeah, they're a great group.
And, just amazing, pouring a lot of resources into these young men, tracking their academic outcomes, but also their social outcomes. So there's a lot of work around character development, again, mentoring and exposure. Every year they go on a college trip. So our 9th graders have gone to Washington, D.C. They've done monument tours, but they've also visited colleges in that area. This year we're taking our 10th graders to Philadelphia, so they'll get to see
great.
Temple and Drexel. Yeah. And so just to expose them to the wide world and the options that are available to them outside of high school. So I'm really proud that Brentwood is the first MBK community, which is a higher level of commitment, saying that we are going to work with our community, work with our families, work with all the stakeholders to take on some of the challenges that keep our young people from being successful. So we have a steering committee that's been meeting once a month. We've had some town halls that have been hosted at the Brentwood Public Library. And so we've listened to what the community has to say, that these are the major issues and concerns they have. And so we are working on a community action plan that will address some of those issues and the milestones. And we're going to present that, and we invite you to participate in that event as well. And then we're going to look for resources to try to address those milestones.
Well, I like the idea of a community action plan, because nothing is more frustrating than starting something like that and having meeting upon meeting and getting all of this information and then nothing ever happens. So,
right.
It's
and
nice
so we're
to
going to
see
build
that.
on some of the things that are already in place. We know there have been comprehensive surveys done about the resources that are needed in the community. So we don't want to reinvent those things. We want to get that information and present it to the stakeholders and say, look, this is what's already here. Where are some of the gaps? What do you think we could do? So one of the things we're really focusing on is making comprehensive services available and building trustful and respectful relationships with our parents and community members. And so everything from one of the ideas from one of the young people was providing more opportunities for them to meet with more seniors so they can provide an exchange of information. And so one of our students said, we want to teach our seniors how not to be victims of scams. So there's a 14-year-old saying that they know there's a need that doesn't actually cost any money, just some time and opportunity for them to network and to meet with the seniors. And we know the seniors are going to teach them a lot of things too. But I love the idea of them thinking that they have a resource to share with the senior citizens in our community.
You know, it's interesting. We have the Brentwood Rec Center right adjacent to the Brentwood Senior Center. And of all of our senior centers in the town of Islip, I think the Brentwood Center is the most active. Really, a lot of seniors go there every single day. Many of them have a hot meal there every day. And, we did something in the centers, a tech talk, where some of the people from our IT department sat with the seniors and, told them, don't be afraid of your phone. This is, a lot of them have smartphones, but really are not quite certain how to use them, and working with them. And you see a senior's face light up when they see a young person. So anything that we can do to foster that.
Well, I just want to plug that our district, we have a musical every year, and we usually have 2 or 3 big musicals at the high school. And one of the traditions has been that they perform the musical for the seniors prior to the big event. So we really try to bring them in and work with them and have our children learn how to respect, their senior counterparts and members of the community. I think that empathy really does goes a long way in terms of building empathy amongst our young people.
Listening to Dr. Akil today, we really can see what an incredibly wonderful community Brentwood is, certainly from an educational perspective and many, many other realms. I mean, their historical society is active and their chamber, and it's really a wonderful, wonderful community. And let's one more plug. You have a Regeneron finalist.
Yes.
We had him at the town board in
January.
Yes, I met
Perez. Yes,
and
we're so excited.
Next month he'll be in Washington with 39 other students out of 2,000 nationwide, and we're hoping for great things.
Yes, it's an honor, and we are really excited that he's the only young man from Suffolk County to represent our county at this big event. So, shout out to Dr. Rebecca Grella, his teacher, and we're really proud of Ahmed.
As we are all of our students in Brentwood and townwide in the town of Islip. So thank you so much, Dr. Akil, and for our viewers and listeners for joining us for Supervisor Spotlight. Thank you.